Hello. Hi, everyone. Just waiting a few moments to see if more people connect. Hello. I see some people are logging in. Today is the eclipse, the Virgo Solar Eclipse. So we're all eclipsing together here. Okay, I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes to see if more people connect. If you're logging in, don't be shy. Just tell us how you're doing. Tell us how this eclipse is going for you. How are you feeling? We're right in the middle of the Virgo eclipse, which is the topic for today. So feel free to leave us a comment. Tell us how you're doing. Are you tired? Are you overwhelmed? Are you aligned, connected? Okay. I'm going to start talking, and then whoever comes later can just watch the replay. So today we've got the famous partial solar eclipse in Virgo. So I've been talking a little bit about eclipse season in the shorts that we do and also in the weekly horoscope. And eclipses come in pairs. This is the second eclipse. We had the total lunar eclipse in Pisces, which happened on September 7th. And now this is the second eclipse. And in a few days, the eclipse season will be over. Remember that eclipses are very, very powerful, and they are felt both individually and collectively. So we are all feeling this in one way or another. Of course, the impact of the eclipse is stronger if they touch a personal planet or angle, like your ascendant or midheaven. In this case, the eclipse is happening at 29 degrees Virgo, okay? And it is also a new moon. Remember, I also mentioned that we had two new moons in Virgo. The first one was on the 23rd of August, and this is the second one happening now, which is also an eclipse, right? The first new moon was not an eclipse, but it kick-started eclipse season. And this is happening in the context where the North Node is Pisces and the South Node is Virgo, right? So in karmic astrology, the North Node points to your dharma, to your future, to what is going to make your soul grow and bring you growth in your evolutionary process. While the South Node is the tail of the dragon, and it represents karma. It represents the past and things that are very familiar, but it's time for us to let it go, right? So in this case, we had two new moons in Virgo, and this really points to the exhaustion of patterns related to Virgo. What is Virgo related to in astrology? It's related to your day-to-day routine, to your body, to your health routines, your diet, your exercise routine. But it's also related to perfectionism, analysis, sometimes overanalyzing things and being too much inside of your brain, analyzing, control, getting obsessed with details, and just overworking and trying to overcompensate for everything by working. So really, the fact that we had two new moons in Virgo is an invitation for us to let go of these patterns and move towards the North Node in Pisces. And what does Pisces represent? Well, it represents intuition, it represents flowing, it represents consciousness and unconditional love. So it's, in a way, Virgo represents the rational mind, right? And rational intelligence that wants to measure and control everything, while Pisces represents a sort of intuitive intelligence. So there's also an intelligence with Pisces. It's just that we cannot understand it. Call it a planetary intelligence, a bigger intelligence that goes beyond the rational mind, right? So what is the lesson here? It's to let go of control, let go of overly analytical Virgo tendencies, and just welcome this flow and trust in the process and in the unknown, and that there is a different order and intelligence of things happening that perhaps we cannot understand yet, but it will manifest slowly, will unravel slowly with the weeks. A lot of you, if you're connected with your intuition, you might already have a good sense of what this eclipse might bring for you. So that's sort of a little bit of the lesson with these North and South node, and what would be good for us to sort of let go of and trust a little bit more in the unknown and in that which we cannot fully understand with our rational mind yet. And the eclipse is happening at 29 degrees Virgo. So whoever has either your sun, your ascendant, or your moon around the 27, 28, 29 degrees of either Virgo or Pisces is going to feel this a lot more. And the same happens for people with these energies in the first signs, the 0 degrees, first degree or second degree of Libra or Aries, right? Because after the 29 degree of one sign comes the 0 degree of the next sign. So everything is very closely aligned. Now, astrologers have been talking about this eclipse a lot for a long time, and this is probably the biggest eclipse of 2025, and that is because this eclipse has a lot of aspects. It's aspected to very, very important energies, and I want to kind of touch on a few of the aspects of the eclipse and on why this is considered such a big eclipse. Now, right now, what we have in the sky is we've got a configuration that is called a trine, a grand trine. And this configuration has a lot of astrologers talking because we had a similar configuration several years ago when the Second World War started, right? So there's a lot of speculation about that, and also perhaps a lot of fear around it, but I'm not a big fan of alarming prognosis. So I will just say that that configuration is made up of Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. These three planets are like the big planets that have to do with transcendence. Yes. They are planets that move very slowly and that have to do with profound changes in different ways that affect entire generations, that affect our world beyond the three-dimensional dome, the three-dimensional reality. So they're connected with energies that we cannot necessarily see in our day-to-day lives, that influence our subconscious mind, our intuitive mind, and just entire paradigms, cultural paradigms of thought and of that define our culture, right? So these planets are all creating profound change, and the planets themselves are also moving from one sign to the next, right? So we've got Pluto, which was in Capricorn for 16 years, moving into Aquarius. We've got Uranus that spent 7 years in Taurus, moving into Gemini. And we've got Neptune, which spent almost 16 years in Pisces, moving into Aries. And while Pluto has already crossed over, it spent some time crossing in and out of the last degrees of a sign and the first degrees of the next one, because they also retrograde, right? When they retrograde, they go backwards. So Uranus is now in Gemini for the first time. It's going to go back to Taurus for a brief period, and then it will return to Gemini in the year 2026 and will stay there definitively. The same with Neptune, currently in Aries, but it will return very soon to Pisces to finish up the last details of the work that Neptune was doing there, and it will move next year back into Aries and will stay there definitively. And the thing is, the last time these planets were in this configuration, yes, we saw the beginning of the Second World War, and there was a lot of chaos and a lot of animosity, and the entire world order changed, right? And we are sort of witnessing that right now. We're seeing that the world is changing. There's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of animosity, a lot of violence, and that has to do with very deep structures of the world, of economy, of politics, of power dynamics, and as well of cultural and social structures, even psychological structures that are going through profound changes. However, the last time that this aspect was happening, in astrology, we don't just look at the configuration, we look at the position of the planets. So imagine a triangle, and they are all connected in this triangle. Well, before it was Pluto who was at the tip of the triangle. So that's the guide planet, that's the leading planet. And Pluto is essentially transforming experience, but it transformed by destroying. So it can be a very destructive, a very violent force. And that's why, if we look at the Second World War, we see so much war, so much loss of life, right? And Pluto is related to nuclear energy, to atomic energy. So we also saw the atomic bombs being launched, right? But this time around, the year 2025, this configuration is led by Neptune. It's not being led by Pluto. So what is Neptune all about? Like I said before, it's the ruler of Pisces, and it's connected with a change of foundations, but in a lot more of a subtle, ethereal energy. It's connected to unconditional love and to helping us all feel that sense of we are all one, right? So I don't want to get into too much of how this is going to be felt, on how it's going to completely unravel. But I do want to point this out because we are also seeing huge displays of people just crossing all boundaries, right? Neptune and Pisces is all about dissolving boundaries and feeling our unity. And for sure, there's a lot of movements around the world. We're seeing people just transcend these boundaries of division, of hatred, of separation, and there's huge manifestations of cooperation between people and of just enhancing love as the primary evolutionary force that we all need to embrace if we want a better world and a better humanity, right? So definitely, I'm a lot more optimistic than perhaps some other astrologers. I do think that, yes, we're going to see a lot of chaos, but definitely the leading planet is not such a disruptive force as Pluto. So that's a little bit of why am I mentioning this? This is a slow transit of slow planets, and they're all having this dialogue together, right, and interacting. And at the same time, these planets are changing signs, right? And the change of signs brings profound changes that last for generations and shape entire generations. But at the same time, the eclipse, right, the eclipse, which is the sun and the moon aligning in the 29th degree of Virgo, sort of come into this configuration and they form angles with all of these planets. And this is what in astrology we call a kite, because it basically looks like that triangle of these three planets, and the sun and the moon are right down here and they connect. So it kind of looks like a kite. There are different names for the figures that geometrically planets speak, and when they are in the same degrees of certain signs, they create different figures. So basically, this is one of the reasons why this eclipse is so potent. It's because it sort of establishes a dialogue with these big players that are changing everything in the world right now. And to add to all of that, Saturn is also in the mix, because Saturn right now is conjunct Neptune, right? And this is also a big thing, and it's also part of the eclipse. So basically, this eclipse includes a lot more aspects. I'm not going to get into them now, but it's basically touching so many aspects. Like all the planets are having a very intense exchange. Think of them as exchanging information and trying to agree on things. And this is why I think of this eclipse as a sort of point of no return, in which we're all sort of jumping into this evolutionary train, and we can really see with a sort of clearer glimpse of what 2026 is going to be all about, right? But let me just briefly go back to Saturn and Neptune, because this is also pretty important. Saturn is all about structures. It's about the shape of the world. It has to do with Earth, right? So it has to do with limits and with the law and with giving shape to things. And it has to do with austerity and mastery of a skill. While Neptune is all to do with the intangible, right? Saturn is the tangible, Neptune is the intangible. Saturn is reality, Neptune is dreams. And they're conjunct, they're together. So these energies are completely different, but they're together. And what does this bring? What does that mean? Well, it means different things depending on how you interpret this, but it's going to manifest in different ways. For a lot of us, it's going to be the materialization of a dream, right? However, because they're both in the fold, in a lot of ways, our dream is going to come true. However, it's also going to show us the limitations of the dream, right? Because in our minds, our dreams are always huge and they are perfect, right? But when you have to ground them in reality, it can never be boundless, like the fantasy of Neptune goes to boundless places, and you have these huge fantasies, but when you have to bring them down to reality, well, it's more limited what you can achieve. But it does give us this sort of materialization of things that perhaps we've been dreaming about for a very, very long time. And now those dreams are finally taking shape. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's amazing. On the other hand, if we were dreaming about things that were really not grounded on reality at all, this transit of Saturn and Neptune can let us down, because it's the moment in which we're going to realize that those dreams were just not grounded on reality at all. And Saturn is going to show that to us. And in a way, the invitation is, okay, you can still dream, but try to find a foundation that can be actually manifested on this 3D world on Earth, right? With your material possibilities. So they're both having a dialogue, and it can be productive, but it is going to be a process of Saturn setting boundaries for those dreams, while at the same time Neptune providing the inspiration for us to be able to really realize those dreams. Okay. all of this together in aspect with today's eclipse. So definitely very powerful. If anybody wants to share how you're feeling or share your zodiac sign, and we can look into it a little bit more. In the meantime, I'm going to continue with what else is happening, what we can look forward to. So that's happening today, right? The eclipse. And then we've got the week starting, right? This week, the upcoming week. And like I mentioned before, today is the last degree of the sun in Virgo, the 29th degree. So tomorrow is the sun entering Libra, right? But right before the sun does that, Mars, the planet of action, planet of entrepreneurship, of initiatives, of war as well, it's our masculine drive, our drive to do things, enters Scorpio. So Mars is going to enter Scorpio tomorrow, Monday, 22nd of September. And Scorpio, the current ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, but the old ruler of Scorpio was Mars. And Mars entering Scorpio means it's entering its own terrain, right? So Mars is very strong in Scorpio. How does Mars behave in Scorpio? It has a very powerful, very strong drive, yes, but it's not like Aries, which is impulsive. Mars in Scorpio is strategic. It thinks about when it's going to unleash that powerful energy it has. So it tends to wait if it's not the right moment. But when the right moment appears, this is a very powerful drive that will go and get what it needs to get. And in matters of, for example, love and romance, to sort of take it out of the mundane aspect, definitely they're very good at conquest. And Mars in Scorpio is going to give everybody that sort of drive to go after your love interest, and to just have the right seductive energy to sort of woo someone, right? Mars is going into Scorpio. However, one of the first things that Mars is going to do is it's going to have a square with Pluto in Aquarius. And I talked a lot about Pluto already in Aquarius. Aquarius has to do with groups. It has to do with freedom, with being authentic, and just it has to do with the future and with unconventional relationships, unconventional thinking. It has to do with science, right? Scientific thinking, the genius, the one that sees ahead of time. Always ask Aquarius what they're thinking, and you'll know what humanity will be thinking 20 years from now. That's what a famous astrologer called Linda Goodman used to say. So the fact that Mars is in sort of a square with Pluto, this is a tense aspect in a dialogue. This means that we're going to have to watch out with power dynamics, right? Possible tensions, a lot of dynamics around control. But because the sign of freedom, Aquarius, is involved, it's quite likely that if you are noticing this, if you're feeling trapped in any kind of group or social dynamic where you're feeling perhaps someone is being too controlling or too trying to run their own agenda, a lot of people are going to feel this pressure, this intensity, and you might have the urge to sort of break free from that. Because Mars is in Scorpio, it's possible that you're going to want to be strategic about it, but at the same time, this square will make it very evident that there is something about power dynamics that is not working for you on a personal level. Because these planets move slowly, it's possible that you're feeling this several days in advance, right? So we are already feeling that intensity of Mars square Pluto today. So whatever it is that's coming up for you that you're noticing, pay attention to that, and that's giving you information of what type of relationships and how you're going to go about these relationships moving forward. Right after Mars goes into Scorpio, yes, we have the sun officially going into Libra, right? And that's the equinox. For those in the north, it's going to be the autumn equinox. For those in the south, it's the spring, right? And this is very interesting, right? Because Libra is all about balance, beauty, harmony, right? Of being balanced in our relationships. And it's a kind of a lot of a lighter relationship and being diplomatic and being fair. So we were coming from the Virgo season, which was all about structure and focused more on ourselves. And now the focus goes into relationships. So while on one hand we have Libra, which is all about balance and being diplomatic in relationships, we also have Mars going into Scorpio, which is very passionate and very intense and controlling. So this is going to be definitely it's going to make the energy even stronger, right? So if there's an imbalance in any kind of relationship or you don't feel good, definitely this Libra season is going to bring your attention back into how do you get balance back in your life, right? And all of these is also in a way part of the eclipse happening today, because all of these are happening very, very close in terms of degrees. So you're probably likely feeling the Mars square already today, and it's going to carry on into the week. Both of the eclipses and these slow movements, they're felt several days ahead of time, and you continue to feel them for several days after. So whatever is happening, it's not that you're going to feel it today. It doesn't have to be today. It could have been already happening last week, or it could be happening during the week that's ahead of us. So I don't want you to think that something specific is going to happen precisely today or tomorrow. It's more of a process that starts unfolding, right? So we've kind of covered the topics. If anybody has a question or wants to go over your sign, please drop a comment, and I'll be happy to let you know, to share with you. Anybody wants to share about what the eclipse is bringing for you, if you already noticed anything. I left a comment there. We have a weekly horoscope that we send out via email. It arrives every Sunday. And if you want to subscribe, you can go to our website, nima.anahana.com, and you can subscribe there. Otherwise, you can come every Sunday. I'll be here at 12 p.m. Eastern time, just sharing what's been going on during the week and the astrology of next week that we can all look forward to. So, okay. I guess nobody has any questions. Whoever made it late, you can always watch the replay later. So, thank you everybody for being here, for listening, and I will see you next week at 12 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.